paid service that you guys can get stuck into for your staff at this stage anyway. So it's, before you do that, you clearly want to know all the awesome features and what you can do with it. So Steve's the man to take you through that. So if we aren't already recording, Steve, we are recording, which is awesome. So I'll hand it over to you. If anyone wants to ask any questions, just feel free to put up your hand or put it in the chat in the corner there, and I can bring those to Steve's attention as we go through.
Yeah, nice. Look, and I'll do it as we go rather than getting to the end, because if you ask a question, I'll forget what it was if it was 5 minutes earlier. It is the afternoon, so we'll see how we go. So look, if you've got any questions, just feel free to chuck them in the chat. And Sam, feel free to butt in if you want. I'm all happy with that. So let's jump forward. So what we're looking at here is this idea of bringing the best of everything we're doing AI across the wider Google into Google for Education. So everything that we build across the wider Alphabet and Google, we bring into our education products for you, for want of a better term. So tēnā koutou katoa, ko ingarangi te whakapaparangi mai, no te tahi ahau, ki te nahua o ki akarana, ko smutaka whānau, ki na maunga whaki, ki na waituku kiri, ki na mata waka o te motu kanui te mihi, everyone. I should go back and do that. So go back. One, if you haven't met me, my name's Steve. I'm the program manager for Google for Education here in New Zealand. I am in, there's Benice's note taker. Excellent. Where are we doing that? Oh, it's Otter. Excellent. So I always love when someone sends their autopilot to a meeting and not actually go themselves. So I am an ex-school teacher, secondary school teacher. So I've been in the role for about 4.5 years or so now. Let's jump on in. So what we're calling this now is the Gemini era. We previously had a product called Bard. We now have updated the name to Gemini, and Gemini is the branding you'll see across everything. We had a couple of different names, so we'll kind of be talking about Gemini across everything. We sort of have a look at this, how we got to where we are now with these large language models or generative language models now. So way back, early days of programming, if you wanted to know about a cat, you'd tell the computer everything about the cat. So it's an animal, it's got 4 legs, 2 ears. Yes, yes, it has fur. It likes playing with wool or yarn and catnip. So that was traditional programming. Moving to about 2012 was where you could train a network based on some inputs, then ask it a question based on that input, and it would give you an artificial intelligence style answer. Where we're at now is this idea of a generative language model where effectively the model you're working with reads a whole lot of information, and then you can ask it a question. Now, when we're looking at Gemini, because Gemini has access to all our Google products, it has access to Google Search, Google Books, Google Maps. Everything up to date now is what you're getting in Gemini. So it is an up to the hour model when you ask it a question, because of the fact it looks across all the different publicly available Google products. So nothing privately available, only what is publicly available. We have this timeline of AI in the company that you may have seen before. So way back to 2012, we started using AI, training AI models with games, the old Atari Breakout, then up to chess, and then in 2015 was a really famous undertaking in AI when the DeepMind platform defeated a Go champion called Fan Hui. Go has approximately 100 to the power of 100 moves, and our AI tools learnt that in a few months and then managed to defeat a grandmaster. Up to 2016, we did very similar things, but with DeepMind and eye health. So the ability to scan retinas to find unhealthy retinas. So that was back in 2016. 2017, the Transformer model was released. It was created by a couple of our engineers. That is the T that you would see in another chatbot. So the Transformer has enabled this big change in large language models. 2019 was text to text, and we had our first 10 billion parameter model. So 10 billion is basically the connections. 2018, we put generative AI inside search. So we have had generative AI inside Google search since 2018. 2020 was when we released our first large language model, and that was released at I/O, which is a big developer conference. It was there that Sundar Pichai, our CEO, had a conversation with a paper plane about being a paper plane. And that was the first time really generative AI had been shown out there in the wider world. A lot of people didn't really understand what they're looking at, but it was us releasing that model for the very first time. Then 2022, we released a model called AlphaFold, which understands how every protein in the human body works, and open source that to allow people to go out and use it in the medical space. When we're thinking about the products that are available to us right now, these are our 7 AI principles, and the 7 AI principles must be hit by everything we create. And it's not best 3 out of 5, or, oh, we got 5, let's just let it go. It's got to hit all 7. So if we can't hit all 7 of these principles, we won't release anything publicly. So there are a couple of really important ones: being built and tested for safety, avoid creating or reinforcing any bias, be accountable to people as well. So our tools are always accountable to people. There is always someone with a hand on the handbrake. And that really big point for education: be socially beneficial. It's got to actually have a use. So bringing that into our AI principles for education, that top one, is it appropriate? What are the benefits? Is it helping all levels to succeed? And is the educator part of this process? So we have educators groups that are giving us feedback on everything we're doing and everything we have done up to this point. So that is our AI principles and how it relates to education. So you'll see this theme a couple of times about making AI helpful for everyone. So models and infrastructure are super important. We have something called the TPU chip, which allows us to upscale everything we're doing across our data networks. And also that thing I talked about at the beginning, the fact that we are bringing it across all these different platforms. So Gemini has access to YouTube, for instance, which helps it to become a super informed platform. Again, thinking about AI in education, the very first time we put AI inside of education tools was way back in 2015 with chart suggestions. So when you're using Google Sheets, you highlight some data, it would pop up. It looks like you want to put in a bar graph. Real simple AI. So we kind of talk about this fact that it's not a new thing. It's been around for quite some time. 2022 up to 2024, we have released a lot of AI-powered tools. Just recently over at ISTE, we released Read Along in Classroom, Read Along being our AI-powered reading tutor. Reading Insights for educators. Google Vids is an amazing product that has been released. It is an AI-powered collaborative video creation tool. Notebook LM gives you your own language model, train it on whatever you want to train it on. AI-based questions for YouTube videos, and the overarching Learn LM, so the large language model that is specifically tuned for education. Now, when we think about AI and why someone would want to use AI, the top 2 bubbles are the ones that we kind of look at. Let me just give it a laser pointer. There we go. So this one here, looking at lesson preparation. This was a McKinsey report that did some looks at the impact of artificial intelligence in education, suggesting about 5 hours can be saved with prep per week, and also in about 2.5 hours of admin time. Now, if we put those 2 together, I used to teach maths, so I think I'm right here. This is about 7.5 hours a week that can be saved in theory, which realistically is half your Saturday and Sunday back each weekend. So I guess when we think about, is it appropriate? That's what we start to think about. We have a couple of really great tools that are available in Workspace Plus. We have practice sets on the left, which gives kids worksheets that are powered by AI in the background. It gives them help when they need it. It also has this really nice insights dashboard. So what the AI does here is read the information that comes back and provide insights back to the educator. So Steve is getting every question right. Sam struggled with everything. So you might get those sort of feedbacks back. So it means you don't have to read all your data. AI is doing it for you. And we get this idea down here as well of the class insights. On the right-hand side is a really cool tool called Read Along. Read Along gives you Dia. Dia is your little reading assistant that sits down here. She listens to you read. You read to her. She'll pick up any words you get wrong. If you pause, she'll read the word to you. So these are a couple of really nice tools that are powered by AI that have been around for about 2 years now, that you may or may not have seen. If you haven't seen either of these two, have a look. They are both available to Workspace Plus schools. We're also going to talk today about Gemini and Workspace. So built-in Gemini is a big part of what we're working on now. We're trying to cut down the going out to somewhere else to get something and coming back and copying and pasting. How do we actually make it all nice and seamless? And these are the areas we'll look at in a little bit. So at the moment available in our labs program is this one. Help me create a presentation. So open the slides, type something into the sheet, into the prompt box in here. Make me a presentation on the history of Auckland. Make it 20 slides long and include images, and it'll create that for you. Now, obviously, it takes a little bit of time, but it's one of those things that are now available in our labs that you can sign up for. So this is the sort of thing we're trying to do to help educators save a bit of time. So this was one of those slides that was created. It was I said, make me a slides on the history of AI, and it created me a 30-slide slide deck with information around AI in it. So how do we help to create stuff that will help to save you time? I talked a little bit at the beginning about something called Notebook LM. Notebook LM allows you to upload some information. So you can see I've got some geography revision books here that are out of print, so out of copyright. I have to say that straight away. So these were uploaded to this tool. I can then ask that tool questions. So if you think about Gemini and the chatbot experience, when you ask it a question, it goes out and looks at all its understanding of the web. This is just training on some specific information. So if you had 5 or 6 resources you want people to use, chuck them in here, ask it a question, and you're using generative conversational AI just on those resources there. Great for things like your policy documents, your board reports, all those sorts of things can sit inside there. And we'll look at how we can do that sort of thing inside of Workspace in a bit as well. 3 main things we're going to look at today. One is Gemini, so gemini.google.com, which we call the Gemini chat experience. Then there is Gemini inside of Workspace. And then we also have inside of Google Cloud the ability to create your own chatbot. So build a chatbot that sits on your school website, for instance. So those are the 3 parts we have across Google when we're thinking about Gemini. Now, obviously, when we're thinking about powering Gemini, we need to have a really good understanding of prompt writing. And prompt writing is where all the power comes from. So there are 6 main categories that we talk about when we talk about writing prompts. Now, it could be checking for understanding. It could be teaching learning strategies. It could be helping you create some curriculum planning, some reflective practice, give me feedback on this, admin tasks, and professional development as well. So those are kind of the 6 outlines we can think about. So a sample prompt that you might put into Gemini. Design a 3-part lesson for a class of Year 8 students on the topic of Earth science. Include a practical activity to be completed using a Chromebook and Google Earth. Use the redefinition level of the SAMR model. Include a 5-question quiz as a follow-up activity. Now, that is a fairly long and involved prompt, but you are going to get really, really good results back from a prompt like that. Create a short story for children aged 7 to 8 about a trip to the zoo. Create different versions of the story to accommodate a range of reading levels. So what we're looking there is instantly differentiating that work. And that is always a really hard bit about the classroom. There's a bit I struggled with, was differentiating across different levels of expertise. Then the last one, create a professional development for educators in New Zealand who use Google Workspace and Chromebooks, provide a timeline and some suggested activities. So some examples of prompts you can use. Now, when we think about our prompts, we have a good prompt. Generate 2 highly engaging classroom discussion activities for a project on reducing food waste. Quite a nice prompt. However, if we break it down into a slightly higher functioning prompt, if you like, we look at a couple of different ways to organize our prompt. Now, this one is what we call the parts model. So we have a persona. So act as this. What is the aim? What do you want it to do for you? What is the response? How do you want it to come back? Do you want a bulleted list? Do you want a table? Do you want an essay? What's the tone? And what is the audience you're looking for? And what are some specifics you may want to get out of there? So an example like this: act as an expert leader designer for secondary students to focus on sustainability. Generate comprehensive teacher notes for 2 highly engaging classroom activities. The project will be for Year 8 class, formatted in clear and organized structure, and then specifics maybe include a think, pair, share, or a jigsaw, or a word cafe. So that's what we can think about when we're thinking about prompting. Now, there is a whole lot of things we can look at around prompting, but for today, we'll jump in and have a look at how we can use these. When we're looking at our prompts, using natural language. So these tools are conversational. Be really specific and be prepared to iterate on what you do. Be concise, avoid complexity, but give it real specific instructions and make it conversational, as we'll see in a minute. So the first tool we're going to look at is what we call the Gemini chat experience. That's available for free if you go to gemini.google.com. Now, your school will need to switch this on if they haven't already. If they do switch it on, it'll be available for you up in the 9 dots or the waffle or whatever you want to call it. So gemini.google.com, I have asked Gemini, I've got a bit meta here, how can people use Gemini AI in education? And it's given me a whole lot of feedback. Down the bottom, I can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I can actually click on this and I can change the way it came back. I can edit that response, or I can share it out to Docs or out to Gmail, for instance. We have the big G, which means we can double check where it came from. So we can actually do a Google search based on this stuff here. So that's when we start to have a look at when we think about using Gemini chat, and we'll come back and look at some uses of this in a little bit. So inside that Gemini chat experience, I've asked a really quick, create a quiz on photosynthesis, and it's given me some questions. Then over here, can you give me the answer key for that? Because let's be realistic, we want the answers as well. So I've got myself 10 questions and the answer there, with some bonus stuff down there as well. Now, once I've done that, I can jump down the bottom, hit share, and throw it out to Docs, and then share it with my students. Next example, inside of Gemini, you can upload a picture. So I've uploaded this image here and just said, tell me about the car in the picture. What it's come back with is it's had a look at the picture and figured out what's in that picture. So Gemini is what we call multimodal. It can be text, it can be speech, it can be images you put into Gemini at gemini.google.com. Another nice example of putting some images in, I've dropped in an image of 2 algebra equations. And I said, solve these 2 problems. Gemini's had a look at it and figured out there are 2 separate problems there. Here's the first one, here's the second one, here's how you do it. And that's just what it looked like there. I simply did a quick screenshot of that picture, hit the upload image, and then off we go. So you can see that you get a nice little help back on how you can do this. There is also the drafts drop down here. So I can drop it down. It will give me 3 different drafts for all my responses as well. Now, when we're thinking about Gemini, there are a couple of different ways we can think about using this. So this is having a look at the Gemini in Workspace one, which is the paid version of Gemini. So this is, you're behind on your emails, so ask Gemini to summarize the emails for you. You're leading a meeting that's starting soon, create a schedule. Prepare a brainstorm for some ideas. Then generate some images inside of slides. If you're using Meet, so Meet here, I can get it to transcribe and I can get it to take notes, and I can actually get it to make notes that are really, really short. So the notes will give me bullet pointed lists and any action items that come out of here. And I can do that by just jumping into Meet and clicking on transcribe now. Then we've got the transcript. Drop that transcript into Gemini and get it just to draft some quick next steps. So that's a bit of an idea of how you can use these different things across the day. So the first one we looked at was the free Gemini, the gemini.google.com. This one is a paid add-on that you get inside of Workspace, which has some bigger functionality. Now, when we've got the paid version, it sits here inside of Docs, and gives you that help me write prompt inside of Docs for you, creates it all in there, and you can go on and edit that inside as well. You see there is a recreate and a refine sitting down there as well. We can also go from that idea of a blank page to something that's sitting on front of that page very, very quickly with that built-in help me write idea. Now, this is a little GIF animation of help me write inside of Gmail, but also summarizing that thread. So it's asked to summarize the email thread. It's read back the email of those 20 emails you've missed and given you a quick summary and also a suggested summary email you can go forward with as well. Looking at inside of Sheets gives you what's called the sidebar, which sits down here. So I'm talking to Sheets and asking Sheets to create me some stuff. So I'll create a draft agenda for a PD day, for instance, is sitting inside there. Nice thing about this one as well is that I can ask Gemini to write me formulas, to crunch some numbers, to do some stuff with the data that's on that sheet. Inside of Slides gives us the Gemini sidebar there and allows us to create some stuff inside of Slides, either images or bullet pointer lists or whole slides for you as well. The one I'm really enjoying using is this one, the Gemini side panel and Drive. So what it does is it gives you Gemini that sits inside your Drive. And I can ask Gemini questions about stuff that's inside my Drive. Now, that stuff doesn't go anywhere. It stays inside my Drive. It doesn't go out into the wider Gemini. But I can say, find me files about AI. Find me files about student achievement. Find me the differences between this and this. So it'll work inside my Drive. So this is what the side panel looks like in Docs. Gives me those questions I can ask. Sam, go ahead.
It's my question, actually, Steve. I was thinking about that with the Google Drive interactions with Gemini. So if you've got a license for Gemini as as a teacher, I'm guessing it's only looking at what's in your Drive. But if you want to look in across sort of a staff area, is it going to pick up what's in shared drives as well?
Yeah, so it'll pick up in shared drives. It'll pick up stuff that's shared with you, but not stuff that's owned by other people. So it must be shared with you and viewable to you to be able to be accessed by Gemini. Yep. Yeah, good question. So some examples of prompts that sit across here. So these are a whole lot of prompts that I've used, and I can show you kind of how a lot of these work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to Gemini and show you some examples of these prompts inside Gemini. So let's jump over to, so this is what Gemini looks like. This is what we call Gemini, the chat experience. So this is the one that's available to you right now. It's available to 18 plus only. So even if you switch it on for your school, anybody under the age of 18 won't be able to get to it unless they are deemed as over 18 in your organizational units or in your domain. We have announced just recently that it is coming to over 13s as very soon. But again, must be switched on for them. If you don't want to have it, don't switch it on. You'll notice down the bottom here, you can see there is a little shield that's sitting down inside my prompt. That tells me I have enterprise data protections on this, and nothing that I'm currently doing will go back and be used to train our model. That is coming to education very, very soon. So once you see that little shield drop in, it means that everything you're doing is basically private inside here. So if we have a look at Gemini, we have the prompt box down the bottom. We have the image upload. We have my microphone. I like the microphone because it's easier than typing into it. We have our activity on the side, which we can delete all our activity if we want. Up here, I have my recent chats. So I have everything I've been doing here. There is my Model T car that I showed you before. So there's my image sitting inside there. Now you'll notice that this has a couple of interesting things on it. It has the sources down the bottom. So if Gemini uses anything that's already on the web, it will reference where that comes from. So some of it will be from Gemini's own understanding. Others will be from a website. So we have the sources sitting down the bottom there. Here's our thumbs up and thumbs down. We can modify that, make it longer, shorter, simpler, more casual. We can also click share, send it out to Docs if we want, or send it straight to Gmail. We can Google it down there. And also if there's anything that is worrying, we can report issues here as well. That goes straight back to our developer team and they'll have a look at that, because that's that idea that there is always someone in control of this. So the very first one I've done up here is I've asked Gemini to create me an image of New York City at sunset in the style of Dali. So here are 4 Dali style pictures of New York at sunset. So this is in the free Gemini chat you can use. The next one down, I've asked Gemini to give me the history and background to Hangaro, the Māori medium technology curriculum. I've asked it to explain it so a novice can understand this and include some links to resources about Hangaro. So I've given it the persona that is dealing with a novice and be a coach to explain the history of that. And that's given me quite a nice range of information. Plus, it also has that stuff down the bottom with some links out to that. Now, I was creating a fictional website based on Bayside High School. So I've asked Gemini to create me some logos for my fictional school called Bayside High School. There it is there. Now, the fourth one I quite like, but it's spelled it wrong. So I just said recreate it. Now, what you'll notice here is it remembers each step of our conversation. So it is conversational. I can go back and do that again, or make that one better, or change this in this way. I've then said it's actually spelt wrong in most of those. Can you make sure it says Bayside? So there we're done. Yeah, it's included all the correct spelling. Then I've asked Gemini to create me a web page for that school. So here is the HTML code for a website. I've simply asked it to create it for me, grab all that code, drop that code into another app, and it actually made me the website there. So what we're doing here is we can do an outline of code. Students can then go back in and change that code if they want to. I've asked for a specific outcome here. I've asked for a table of data. So that is my outcome. And I've asked for 25 fictional students, give everyone a name. The data is for 20 tests at a school with a maximum score of 120. Please randomly give each student a different score for the 20 different tests and give each test a name. So what it's done is it made me a really nice bunch of data that I can then drop in to use for maths. So there are all my scores with the names of the tests at the top. Now, because this one was asked as a table, I can just drop it straight out to Sheets. So if you need to create some resources around maths, here is a whole lot of statistics you can chuck in there as well. I was also playing around with Drive and asked it to write me a fictional school board report on how well the school has achieved in the last year. Write it as if the school principal wrote it. So there's the persona. It's a report to the community. It's 4 pages long. That's the outcome I want. And include the following topics that are on there. So I actually drop it down. It's got all the different topics, and there it has written the end of year principal's report to the school community. Now, the reason I did that was so I could actually use it inside of Drive. This one I'm gonna quickly have a look at, and then I'm gonna move on. So what I did earlier was I asked Gemini to write me a story about a tiger chasing a butterfly in the forest. Now, this may be some student work. A student creates a story around the tiger chasing a butterfly. Now, if I'm going to go and try and do a Google search for an image of a tiger chasing a butterfly in the forest, it may take me half a day to find that. And this, I've just asked Gemini to create it, and it's gone and created the image for me. I can then send it to the student. They've got a nice image to put into their writing. One of the last little things here, I've asked Gemini to watch this YouTube clip and create a series of 20 questions with answers. What it's done is it'll say, I can't actually watch a video. However, what it will do is it will read the transcript of the video. It's given me 20 questions and answers from that video clip. I've then said, can you write me a 3-level guide on this? Done a 3-level guide for photosynthesis. And I can then continue and go on and iterate and iterate and iterate on that if I want. So there's some examples of using Gemini Chat, the chat experience, which is available for all schools at the moment. Now, if I jump over to this tab, so this is this is Gemini sitting inside my drive. So when we're thinking about Gemini now, this is the paid edition of Gemini that you can buy one license for one person if you want. You don't have to buy it for everyone at school, and I'd suggest you probably wouldn't unless you have a ridiculous amount of money falling out of your pockets. But what I suggest here is maybe get it for 1 or 2 people in your senior leadership team, have a go with it for a year and figure out if you'd like it or not. Now, what you can see is the Gemini sidebar that's sitting down here. I have a whole lot of things that are sitting across here. Now, if I have the country and GDP data, I can ask it specifically stuff around that. But what I might say is I might think, what is the difference in student achievement for the, what's it called? The school board report from 2021 and 2023. So I'm going to ask Gemini to go and read those documents in my drive and give me some feedback. You know, you notice I've used a very conversational tone with it. It's not going to just do a search and find those things. It's actually going to have a look at the files and then bring me some information back. He says, hopefully. So there we go. So the student achievement for the school in 2021 was significantly higher than that in 2023 in the overall pass and blah, blah. So you see it has actually brought back a conversational reply to me. So those are these 3 documents sitting inside my drive. Now, if I jump over to this data inside of Sheets here, I'll open that sheet up. Now, same sort of thing. Once I get into that sheet, you can see it all looks very similar. But what happens now is that I'll have the Gemini sidebar sitting up there. What I can then do is I can create a formula. I can ask it about the data. I can say, tell me about the average for column F and column H. So I can get Gemini to do things for me inside of these sheets. So I can go ask it a question, or I could also ask it to completely create something new for me as well. So that's sitting inside of Sheets there. So I might say, what is the average for column F and column G? So I can ask it a conversational question. It will then show me how to either create that formula or it will give me the answer. So again, this is designed to see, there it goes, give me the average for that. That's how I can find it. It's coming from there as well. I could ask it to create a formula that calculates the total GDP. So I can ask it a question. It will then give me a formula, which is really great for me because I'm not fantastic with creating my own formulas. So this is sitting inside my drive, inside my Sheets. It's not going outside. It's not sharing this anywhere either. The other last little thing we can do is if I have, I'm going to jump back to this tab here. So I have a PDF here on cyber physical resilience. I could ask it some questions around this. So I could actually say, when I'm looking at this, I could ask it to summarize I should probably spell it correctly, the cyber resilience report in 10 bullet points. So again, what it's going to do is it's going to have a look at that report and bring me back some bullet pointed summaries of it. So when we're looking at Gemini inside either our drive or inside Sheets or Docs or Slides, there is a real specific difference here. So here we go. Here is the summary for that. Again, it's come back as a conversational response, not just a great big copy and paste inside there. Now, one last little thing I'll have a look at. If I jump into Slides, let's go over to here. When I go for a blank presentation, just like all the other things, when we go into an individual app, there's our Gemini sidebar sitting there. I could get it to create a slide. I could get it to do some ideas, create a list. So I could actually go, let's go create a slide on the history of Auckland spell it right, in 10 bullet points. Let's try that. So I'm going to ask just to create a slide for me. All I've said is I want 10 bullet points on the history of Auckland. What it'll do is have a little think about that. Now, I could ask for images. I could ask for a background of it. I could ask for multiple slides if I want. But what we'll do in that for the interest of time, we've now got that's popped up, and I'm just going to go insert. So there is some of my bullet points. Now, I've noticed that's only got 5 bullet points on it. So what I can go back is I actually say, I asked for 10 bullet points, give me 10 bullet points, not 5. So I can go back and get give it a bit of a reminder of what it's doing. So that again is that Gemini sidebar sitting across there in slides. Same thing you'll see in sheets, slides, docs, and mail as well. When I'm in my mail, I can go in there and have a look at what I can get it to summarize my email. I can get it to create an email for me. So the Gemini sidebar sits up here, and that is that built-in version of Gemini. So when we're looking at what this costs, so the Gemini chat experience is free. So gemini.google.com. Gemini for Education is $24 per user per month. There is also an additional 5% discount there. So it takes it to about $22 per user per month. That's what I'm saying. It's a good example to maybe get 2 licenses or 3 licenses for the year for a couple of your senior leadership team to have a look at. Maybe a couple of people that it will be really useful for. But thinking about that idea of, our AI principles, is it useful? There's no point buying this for someone if they're never going to use it. Inside of your domain, you can get some information around who is using this and how often they are using it. So the things we saw in the paid version, we've got the side panel and sheets there. The side panel and sheets will also create spreadsheets, will create tasks, will create a 2-day program on PD if you want it to. It's quite a nice use case. The side panel and docs that sits there, and the side panel and drive were ones that we saw working inside of our drive. Now, if I wanted to have a quick look at docs, let's just jump over to this one. When I create that blank document, you'll notice I actually get the help me write that sits up the top there. These other ones are from Workspace Plus, the meeting notes, the email drafts. But these will give me drafts inside of my docs. This is that help me write prompt where I can ask it to help me write a job application letter, a PD day outline, a response to a parent whose student is excelling. So all those things that will sit inside that sidebar there. If we are inside of, go back to my waffle there. If we're inside of Gmail, I'm going to quickly jump over to this one. So sitting inside Gmail, again, exactly the same layout as before. Here is my Gmail. There is my Gemini sidebar that sits inside there. So unread emails, order details, summarize an email chain for me. That all lives down here. So those are the 2 different things we've had a look at today. So there is Gemini built into Workspace in the side panel. And then there is that does all the built-in work. And then there is Gemini chat experience, which is at gemini.google.com, which is the first bit we looked at, which does all the free stuff. So those are the 2 things we're looking at. The Warehouse Group team can take you through both of them. Sam's an expert at helping you turn on Gemini if it's not turned on for your school yet. That lives inside your admin console. Switch it on. Only the teachers are going to get access to it. If you want to have a look at Gemini in Education, the Workspace version, have a chat to your Warehouse Group rep as well, and they can talk you through the pricing for that if you want. Available 1 person for a year or even 1 person for a month if you want to have a look at that as well. But that intro pricing does expire at the end of August, so do have a think about that if you want to try it out. So I will stop there after 45 minutes of almost non-stop talk and see if there are any more questions.
Awesome, Steve. I'll give you one from Lucy. So can you talk a bit about sharing student info and safety privacy? Because I'm guessing that that's one of the key things why you would want the paid version.
Yeah, look, that's an excellent question, Lucy, and look, it's one that we talk about often. So the chat experience one you saw there, now mine had that has the little shield down the bottom, which tells me that my data is not going anywhere. However, it is always best practice to never put personally identifiable information into this stuff. So if you had a student's piece of work and you might want to grab a paragraph of it and drop it in, as long as it's got no student owned information, or if you have student work that you don't want to put in here because it may be used to train the model, just make sure that you have that you've got the little shield sitting in there, which means it won't actually go anywhere. But best practice is never to put anything personal in there, never to put anything personally identifiable in there. The difference between Gemini Chat, so this one, versus your built-in Gemini and Drive. The built-in Gemini and Drive, so the paid version, does give you that enterprise data protection. Nothing you do in here is going to go anywhere but on your screen. So yeah, two really important points. Don't share any student info is the best practice. Always, if you're using the paid for edition, you have those enterprise data protections. Your data is not going anywhere. You own your data. You can erase everything that's been in there. With the chat version, wait till you see that little shield down the bottom. That means nothing's going anywhere. Your activity and your settings down here, you can delete your past chats as well. So a couple of really important things in there.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. I've got a number of questions just from me that I think will help everyone out, but I'll just give it 10 seconds just to open the floor if anyone's got any questions that they haven't put in the chat.
Yeah.
Just the dog?
Just the dog. Yeah, just the dog answering a question.
Cool. I will fire away. So Google Vids, I know it's a new thing. So is that only available for Gemini for education users?
No. So Vids is a workspace for education product that gives you the basic access to Vids. Now, if you do the Gemini education license, it actually gives you all the AI stuff that goes on top of Vids as well. So Vids, if you're an Education Plus school, which most of our state schools in New Zealand should be, because the ministry wonderfully pays for that for us, that will give you the access to Vids. If you then get the Gemini license, that will also give you all the generative AI pieces of Vids as well. So Vids is available in two flavors, I guess.
Okay, good. So that answered my first one. So just for everyone here, if you aren't, as Steve alluded to, if you aren't using Google Workspace Plus, which is the premium version of Google for Education, make sure you get that, because it is funded by the ministry. So before that funding, it would have been like $6 per user per month. So now you can get it for your whole school if it's state integrated. If you haven't already got that, make sure you reach out to your account manager or myself, and we'll get you sorted for that, because you actually do need Workspace Plus to be able to get your Gemini licenses, which are the paid ones that you pay for as well. So for us to process those, you firstly need to be a Workspace Plus user. So it's just a reminder there. The other question I've got, sorry, Steve, is the Notebook LM.
Mm-hmm.
So, because that's relatively new as well, is that sort of a product that's in beta or anyone can use, or is it if you have
so Notebook LM is available publicly now. Let me just see if I can find it for you. It was originally released as an experiment. It is now available. So it still says experimental. This is what it looks like here. So notebooklm.google.com. It may not necessarily be available for all school accounts because you have to get into the beta of it, but you can get it with your Gmail at the moment as well if you want to have a look at playing with that. So that's what Notebook LM looks like here. These are my notebooks I've created.
And can students use that as well, or do you have to be over 18 for
I haven't looked actually with that one yet, but I will double check because that was something I needed to have a look at who was actually available to use it. So good question. I'll take that one and have a look myself.
Cool. And Tracy would put the pricing up there, but what I'll do, I think you'll probably automatically get a copy of this presentation, but I'll also do a follow-up email with some resources for you guys to check out, and that will have this pricing clarified as well. So you can see there, if it's ordered before August 23rd, then you get that special rate for those Google Workspace Plus users as well. And it'd be remiss of me, Steve, if I didn't remind everyone that we also, with the Warehouse Group, Google and Growth Culture, who are a PD company, we are running the AI and Innovation Summit. So we're doing one event in Auckland, one in Tauranga, and one in Christchurch. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you take the opportunity to sign up, because then we've got a good chunk of the day to talk through all these awesome features and how you can implement AI, Gemini, and all the Google Workspace features like practice sets and read along into your teaching and learning programs.
Yeah, and that Christchurch one is the day before the New Zealand Principals Federation Conference. So if you are going down for the NZPF conference, the day before on that, we'll be running the Christchurch version of this as well. So you can hit 2 for the price of 1.
Awesome. So any other questions from anyone? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Steve. And thank you, everyone, for joining as well. I know that's quite a lot of information. We've come a long way from when it was just Google for Education.